Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to today's very special Play Attention webinar. This is in honor of all of our mothers as we have our upcoming weekend with Mother's Day. I really do appreciate all of you taking some time out today to chat about parenting and ADHD and how that can add some added challenges and some strategies we can start incorporating that might help. My name is Gwen Sorley, and I will be your host today. Again, thank you for taking out some time to join us. There are just a couple of things I want to mention before we get started. One is that we are recording this event. So at the end of the webinar, you'll receive an email that will have a link to the replay. So if you do want to watch any portion again, or you want to share it with any staff members or family members who were unable to attend, you'll be able to do that. If you have questions or comments during the webinar, if you scroll down to the bottom of the webinar screen, you'll see that there is a chat feature, and you will be able to just type in your questions or your comments as we proceed through. I'll try to answer any questions and share comments as we go through. If I miss something during the webinar, I'll make certain to save some extra time at the end to review the questions I may have missed. So let's talk about mom. And I was thinking about what is the job description if we wanted to just outline the job of mother. And I know for many of you, mom is just one of many jobs that you have. So in posting this job, I thought you must be able to plan and organize a variety of events that inevitably will have chaos involved and a variety of age groups. You have to maintain calendars for many different people, not only maintain their calendars, but coordinate all travel schedules. You have to motivate all of your team members, even teenagers, throughout the day, even when you might not especially feel motivated. You have to motivate others even on the weekends. You have to plan 3 meals a day. And remember, those 3 meals a day, they should be nutritious and they should make everyone in the family happy. You have to track all homework projects from start to end. Even if you haven't taken calculus for years, you have to be involved in that process. You have to be able to assemble and repair all plastic and electronic toys and games. You have to be all-knowing and all-seeing. And by the way, there will be no sick days, no holidays, and no paid time off. But don't worry, you don't have to apply. You've all been accepted to this job position. And we want you to do this job with ADHD. So we know that there are so many complexities to being a mother, and there's so many tasks you have to get done. And when you have ADHD on top of it, it can lead to many challenges. And I know that sometimes you may feel that you often are having to work a lot harder than others. And sometimes that's a misperception. A lot of moms are struggling just as much as you are and working exceptionally hard. But I do know that having to deal with the complexities and the symptoms of ADHD can really make things difficult on the day-to-day. So what I want to do today is to provide you with some strategies to help you balance your career, your family, and your personal life. Now, some of these strategies you've heard before, and I'm hoping that even if you've heard these strategies before, perhaps I present something in a different way today that will spark an idea for you and really make you think that, oh, that is a strategy I can start incorporating. And hopefully I'll also have some strategies that you haven't considered before. Natalie says, do ADHD and anxiety go together? Or could we have ADHD even though people think it's anxiety? You know, it is very often, it's very rare, should I say, Natalie, that ADHD exists on its own. Usually there's comorbidity, meaning there's more than one issue. So very often there is ADHD and anxiety, or you'll hear ADHD and depression, or ADHD and an auditory processing difficulty. And so many times there are the two together. And you know, Natalie, if you have ADHD and anxiety, it's very difficult for you to know where one ends and the other begins because they're so intermingled, right? If you have a task in front of you that you know you have to get done, and you start experiencing some anxiety about that because you have a hard time planning and prioritizing and avoiding procrastination, then you start getting anxious. And because you're anxious, you can't pay attention. Anxiety and stress is not conducive to good attention. So they really do affect each other. So what we need to work on is helping you to control that anxiety, and in turn, helping you to control that attention. So it is very, very common. My child has severe ADHD. How can adults get tested? So, you know, and you bring up an important point, right? Not only are you a mom with ADHD, but I'm sure a lot of parents here today can really understand what you're going through, because many times it's not just the parent who's ADHD, but also the child. So that adds a little bit more. If you want to go for testing, you can always go consult with your regular doctor, your general practitioner, and get a referral to someone in your area who does a full assessment, a full evaluation in your area. I am going to talk about some assessment options that we have here. Of course, we don't do diagnoses, but we can do an assessment with you and a full consultation. And I'll be talking about that a little bit shortly. So here are some strategies that may help you balance your life. First, start your morning slowly. Try to set up a morning ritual. And the benefits of setting up time just for you, and that's what I mean by starting your morning slowly. I mean, spend some time, get up a little bit earlier than everyone else in the house, and have some time alone to prepare for the day. And I know some of you, that may be causing anxiety when I say set your alarm a little bit earlier and get up before the rest of the family, because many of you may be struggling with sleep issues. Oftentimes, as Natalie was asking, is there this comorbidity? Oftentimes there's attention difficulties and difficulties with sleep. So that may be a difficult area for you, but if we can start regulating that sleep and getting up a little bit early, I promise you that time of day is going to become essential to you. There are so many benefits to setting some time aside in the very beginning of the day that can really help you throughout the day. Taking time to slow down first thing in the morning can reduce your stress levels for the rest of the day. It allows you some time to meditate, simply review your tasks that are upcoming, or just gather your thoughts uninterrupted. It gives you some quiet time to get in a positive state of mind, because that mindset that you have first thing in the morning is going to affect your entire day. I know that many of you can relate to that. If you get up and you're cranky and you had an awful night's sleep and you just wake up on what we say the wrong side of the bed, that oftentimes carries through the rest of the day, and it really is hard for you to get back on track. So if you have that time where you can just really start transferring and start getting ready for the rest of your day, it can make a big difference for the rest of your mindset. Also, it allows your mind and body time to truly wake up before you have to start interacting. So give yourself that time before you have to start talking and ordering people around. Give yourself time to really wake up. Also, it may even just give you a little time to have a healthy breakfast and eat mindfully. You know, so if you are always rushed in the morning, you might not be getting that healthy breakfast. And we know that that is truly one of the most important meals of your day. So if you give yourself a little bit extra time, you'll have time to prepare that healthy meal that will help your focus for the rest of the day. So here are some tips to help you start enjoying a slow morning. Give yourself time. Once again, build in time to actually wake up. So if you think of an activity you want to do first thing in the morning, whether it's yoga or simply having that healthy meal, give yourself maybe a little bit of extra time. If you think having a healthy breakfast is going to take you maybe 20 minutes, then set your alarm to 30 minutes ahead of time so that you have 10 minutes to transition and really wake yourself up before starting to move. Develop your morning tradition. Figure out what you want your morning tradition to be. And this might change all the time. So it might be just time for that healthy breakfast or yoga or some type of weight training or exercise, cardio, maybe a walk outside now that it's getting a little bit warmer in the mornings, or perhaps you would like to do some meditation. And really try some different things to see what works best for you and what improves your entire day. And this might change. You know, right now for me, I get up, I have my morning drink, which is a hot lemon tea, and then I go downstairs and I do some yoga and some meditation, and that works for me now. But that's going to change. I'm always changing it. Maybe every couple of months I'll add something new or try something new, and I'll do that for a while. So don't be scared to try some new things, and some things may not be for you, and start incorporating some other things, and just find that routine that works best. Once you find that routine and that morning ritual, protect that time. Don't let anyone or anything get you off track, because I promise you, once you start getting into this routine, you're going to crave it. You're going to want that time just to yourself. Prepare the night before. Since you are going to give yourself some extra time in the morning just for you, then prepare things at night so you don't have to take care of them in the morning. And that is completely out of the way. So that means making some lunches before you go to bed. Have those things prepared. Pick out your clothes for the next day, your children's clothes for the next day. Make certain everyone's backpacks are prepared. If you don't have to worry about those things in the morning, then you will have that extra time for yourself. And remember, it's important to remove unnecessary distractions. First thing when you wake up, you don't have to check your email. Don't check your email. Don't check your text messages. You don't have to watch the news. All of that will be there for you in 30 minutes or 60 minutes or however long you have to spend just with yourself, just concentrating on that transitional time. You do not need to check your email. When you check your email or your text messaging, you're allowing other people, other things, other circumstances to decide where your day is going next. So avoid those distractions and just take those quiet moments to yourself. Now, I debated whether or not to talk about this because I'm certain all of you are tired of hearing how you should be posting a calendar and a to-do list, but I had to put it in here. I know it is very difficult for many of you to get a routine going. And so it's important that we reflect on the benefits of the calendar and the to-do list. I even had a question that came in via email before the webinar from Valerie, and she wanted to know, how can I mandate a routine or a calendar for my son when I can't even keep a calendar for myself? She said she can typically only keep a calendar or a routine for a couple of days, and she doesn't want to. She likes the spur of the moment. So how can she do that? So we know it's important to do this. And what I would say to Valerie and all of you is you're going to have to explore. You're going to have to see what works for you. And, if you look at the picture I have on the screen right now, you'll see that this family is very organized. They have a to-do list for every family member. They have a big overview of things that they need to do. And then they have the calendar that's everything's color coded. So they're very organized. Don't expect to be able to follow through with that. If you've never kept a calendar before, don't look at that or look at things online and say, oh, I need to do it that way in order to be doing it correctly. Do a couple of things. Maybe just your morning routine. Write down 5 things that you and your child should be able to complete in the morning, the tasks for the morning, and go through that for a week, checking everything off. See how you do. Reflect at the end of the week. If it didn't go well, try it again. And after you get your morning routine in line and you're being pretty consistent, add your afternoon to that list. So just do things gradually. You don't have to try to do everything at once. If you try to do everything at once, you're just setting yourself up for failure, quite possibly. So start small and encourage each other. And what I would tell to Valerie and to all of you is that I'm not certain how old her child is, but have your child help you along that way. You know, how did mom do this week with her routine? And they'll tell you, they'll be honest, they will know exactly. And you can learn and really grow together that way. So what are the benefits of a calendar and a to-do list? Of course, it helps everyone get an overview of upcoming events. Planned events mean fewer surprises, fewer misunderstandings, and fewer emotional outbursts. We know that part of ADHD, part of weak executive function, is oftentimes that difficulty with mental flexibility, meaning transitioning from one situation to another, one event to another can oftentimes be difficult. If you have a child who's struggling with ADHD, or even you, if there are suddenly surprises in your routine or your schedule, it oftentimes doesn't go well. So if you have it displayed where you can easily see it, there are going to be fewer surprises. It helps everyone keep on task without constant verbal reminders. So you're not always saying, what are you supposed to do next? You're supposed to go to upstairs and brush your teeth next. What am I supposed to do next? And it will really help you keep on track. Keeps everyone accountable, because if you forget something, you'll always have that list to go back to check yourself. It also helps ensure overbooking. If you have a visual representation of everything that you need to do, everything your children need to do, and you can see it, then there's less of a chance for you to overbook. You can also make it a weekly family activity that you do together. And when you do that planning together, remember, you're teaching not only yourself, but you're teaching your entire family how to plan, how to prioritize, and how to organize. That's all part of executive function. So you can actually make your to-do list and your calendars part of that training. So here's some tips for effective calendars and to-do lists. Like we were just talking about, make it a family activity. So maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, you consistently sit down as a family and you go over the tasks and you go over the events that are going to be on the calendar for the following week. It is also a great time for you to look at last week's calendar and talk about what went well. You know, let's look at the to-do list for Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Were you able to check off everything? Personally, you as mom, were you able to check off everything? If you weren't, what happened? Why weren't you able to complete everything? How can you improve the next week? Ask that of yourself, but ask that of your children as well. And again, when you go through this process, reflecting, planning for the next week, you are incorporating a consistent time in your family schedule where you are working on developing and building strong executive function. Color code. Make certain that if you have a large family or a small family, that you are color coding everyone's events. That way it clearly lets them see at a glance their overall personal schedule for the week. You might want to try a few different types of calendars and see what works for you. So I know that some of the families, I've been in their homes and they have the big calendar on the wall and they write everything in. So that may work for you. Maybe a dry erase board works really well, because then you can erase things and add things very easily. Or if you have older children, and of course for yourself too, an electronic version of a calendar often helps, because when you have it electronically, you can obviously also set up those reminders. And I can tell you, I have so many appointments throughout the day that if I didn't have that alert 10 minutes before each activity, I would certainly get behind. So make certain you kind of play with different things. And of course, if it's a younger child that you have in the home, electronic may not be appropriate. So you may have a few different versions. But it may be a good idea that even if you put it in electronically, so everyone can check the calendar and the events from their devices, also make a master printout that you can post on the refrigerator or post at the front door, so that there's always availability at a quick glance. Don't go it alone, all right? Surround yourself with people. We know that having a strong social connection is going to be beneficial for you. So seek out support from your family and friends. If you know that you don't have to face parenting challenges alone, again, that can lower your stress levels. Having someone that you can talk to openly, who's not going to judge you on the things that you say, will really help you deal with certain emotions and work things through in a safe environment. Sometimes you just have to say it out loud to someone in order to work through a certain situation. And it just feels better to get it out there sometimes. So make certain that you talk about things with your friends. Going to an exercise class or just taking a walk with a friend can ease the stress and chaos in your day-to-day life. There have even been a lot of studies that show if you go to the gym with a friend, it lowers anxiety, it lowers depression. So it's really important not only to have that personal relationship, but have that personal relationship and do some type of exercise as well. Get moving with your friend. Having a strong network of supportive family and friends help enhance our mental well-being, as we were just saying, and discussing your challenges with others and asking them for their opinion. You might not always agree with them, but it oftentimes will give you a different perspective on a certain situation. And it may allow you to try some things that you hadn't considered before. So make certain that you're open to suggestions. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything your friend or your sister says to you about a certain situation. You might not agree, but there may be some value in someone else's opinion. You may have a new found perspective in a situation that you've been struggling with. So make certain you surround yourself. Now, it is work to keep a social network going, right? So there are certain steps that you should put in place so that you can develop this circle of success. Keep in touch. You have to make an effort. I have one of my girlfriends, and we always, every Tuesday night, we set aside time to have a special dinner together. It's the night when my husband is out playing tennis, so I know I'll have that time to spend with her. So we plan a special event that we can do together just that Tuesday night, and we do it consistently. And even in this time when we can't see each other face to face, we can't get together, we do a virtual night together where we just plan a specific time where we connect via Zoom and we chat and we catch up. It's really important to schedule it, because you know that if you just go through your day-to-day, suddenly you look up at the calendar and a month has passed by and you haven't reached out to your best friend or your sister or that very important person in your life. So make certain that you really take the effort and schedule it. Schedule that special event on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, or schedule that time to call. Pick a new hobby and find like-minded people. That's how you can really find new people, new friendships, develop new relationships, and have something interesting to talk about. That may be something outside of the family, outside of things that you typically do. This winter, I suddenly became interested in becoming a beekeeper. So I'm not much of a club person, but I actually joined our beekeeping association and I took their course, and now I have 40,000 bees in my yard. But I also have this great new set of friends who I really enjoy, and they've taught me so much, and I enjoy being around them. And I know that they're going to be lifelong friends. And I would never have met these individuals if I hadn't just tried a new thing, tried a new hobby. Also, you want to make certain that you appreciate the people in your life. Make certain that you remind them that you love them, that you're there, and just a simple, how are you? You know, sometimes with ADHD, you don't realize that you forgot to ask how they are. I have a friend that she's been my friend for over 30 years. She was my college roommate and one of my closest and dearest friends, but she has severe ADHD. And we talk a lot, or I should say she talks a lot. And she never asked me how I was doing. She always interrupted, and I just understood, you know, that's how she is. But within the last 5 years, probably just about 5 years ago, she started really trying to get some things under control and to improve certain areas that she knew were challenging for her. And so after being friends with her for many, many years, I had a conversation with her and she asked me how I was. And I thought, this is new. This is nice that she asked me how I was. So remember, when you are in relationships, it is really important to ask the other person how they are and let them answer. Remember, part of ADHD is control. You must think about controlling those impulsive behaviors. And I know that sometimes you're just interrupting people and you may not even notice it. But that type of control and just setting in your mind that you're going to call someone and just ask them how they are, it's going to really help you develop and keep those personal relationships and those support networks. Get control over meal planning. This is something we have to deal with on a daily basis. So let's go ahead and get control of it now, because it is important and it is a big part of our day-to-day lives and it takes up a lot of time. So the benefits of really getting meal planning under control is that it will help you ensure a more balanced menu. You'll spend less money. If you're planning ahead, if you're scheduling things, you're not going to be impulse buying. And impulse buying is a big problem. So make certain that you're planning ahead, you will spend less money, you'll save time in the end. Because I know that you may think right now, I don't have time to plan my meals every week. I can't sit down and really plan it out. But if you think about how much time you waste when you don't have a plan in mind, when suddenly you're going home from work and you realize you have nothing in the fridge, and then how much time do you spend trying to think, what should you prepare that night for dinner? Where are you going to go to pick up the items? Then you have to go to the store multiple times because you don't have a list and you forgot certain items, you're disorganized. So if you plan everything out, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. You'll stop wasting food because you'll actually know what you have in your fridge and you'll have a plan on how you're going to go through that food. So you'll stop wasting food. Your stress and anxiety will decrease because I know that this can be a source of stress. And it will, again, teach your family how to plan, prioritize, organize, executive function. This is another great opportunity for you to teach and strengthen executive function in your day-to-day lives. Healthier meals when you plan ahead, it's more likely that you're going to have a healthy meal, right? Because if you're doing everything last minute, you're going to go for something fast and easy, and that's going to end up being something processed or some type of fast food. So if you can plan ahead, you're going to have healthier meals, and when you have a healthier meal, you're going to feel better. Not only is your body going to feel better, but your mind is going to feel better. You're not going to have that mind fog, and you'll have more energy. So here's some tips for meal planning. Check out different apps. I use Out of Milk a lot of times because you can do an inventory of your items in your pantry, and you can have your most used items, and then you can replenish very easily. You has a little voice to text. You can just say what you need to put on your list. You check it off as you go through each item and you've picked it up at the store. I also like this because it organizes all of the items into categories. So dairy and fruit, produce, all of the categories are done for you so that when you go to the store, all of your items you have to pick up are already aisle by aisle by aisle. So you don't waste a lot of time just roaming around the store randomly. It also makes certain that you stick to the list, right? If you stick to your list that's on your app, then you're not going to impulse buy and you're going to save money. Try to plan out meals at least 5 days in advance. Take advantage of shopping services like Instacart and have your groceries either ready for you so you can just swing by and pick them up, or have them delivered. Now, I know that many of you might think, well, but I have to pay, give the driver a tip, the shopper a tip. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you calculate it out and you look at how much you will pay in giving the shopper a tip or having your items delivered, you will probably still save money because, again, you're not in that store impulse buying. You have a specific list, you've already put it in your app, they've shopped it for you, and it comes to you. Not only will it save you time, but it will probably, in the end, save you money. It saves you a lot of time, though. I use it all the time. It saves me so much time. Ask each family member to develop their family meal and write it down. They plan the menu, but write down all of the components, all of the ingredients that they need, and then assign each family member a special dinner night where they plan and help prepare. Of course, this is going to have to adjust depending on the age of the child, but making certain to involve the other family members in this process, again, will not only help strengthen executive function, but it will also give them some of the responsibility, right? So you're not always the one trying to come up with all of the meal plans. You give the responsibility over to other family members. And if after a while, in the beginning, it might be a little bit more work for you, but after a while, and we get into this routine, it's going to become less work for you, and you'll actually enjoy it as a family and look forward to it. Write some of your favorite dinners on an index card or keep it electronically. There are a lot of different recipe books that you can get electronically where you can just put in maybe your top 10 menus that you have, and just put in all of the components that you need for that meal. So all of the ingredients, all of the items that you may need to pick up at the store. How long does it take to prepare this meal? How many people does it serve? So put all of that information there and have your top 10. So then if you are sometimes at a loss, grab one of those index cards, look up one of those items online so that you can quickly fill your menu plan for the week. Also, give yourself some flexibility as well. Have a time set aside. I know you don't want to eat out every night, of course, but give yourself some flexibility so that, once a week, you have that time to just not cook. Just give yourself a night off. Maybe it's Friday night takeout night. Just give yourself some time, and it could be a weekly thing. It could be every Friday we just take the night off and we get takeout, or it could be something where when we get really busy in our day-to-day, if we have a hectic day, let's give ourselves that time to just say, we're not going to cook tonight. So plan that in your week as well, where you give yourself a night off. Stop overpromising. A lot of times you'll see one of the characteristics of people with ADHD is that they're pleasers. They want to make everyone happy. But when you do that, you typically end up overpromising. And the difficulty with that is when you are struggling with attention difficulties, oftentimes you may realize that you have unrealistic estimates for the things that you need to get done. Something that may take an hour in your head, I can get that done in 30 minutes, but it's not realistic. So make certain that you stop overpromising. The benefits of stopping this process is that you will actually show up to social events when you say you will. So you won't be letting down your friends. You'll arrive to your appointments on time. And I don't mean just your personal appointments. It could be your work appointments. It could be appointments that you have at the school. If you have meetings with the teachers, you're going to start showing up to these appointments on time because your calendar isn't overbooked. People will appreciate the fact that they can rely on you, that you're reliable. Again, this is another one where your stress and anxiety will decrease. You see that we have this ongoing theme in all of these areas that if you can get into these routines and into these practices, your stress and anxiety will decrease. You won't experience that guilt of disappointing friends and family. Your relationships will improve because of that. You'll feel more confident. When you're getting more done, when people look at you and think, well, she is definitely reliable, you personally are going to feel more confident, and you're not going to get up in the morning and look at your task list and think, oh, there's no way I can accomplish all of this. You're going to look at that calendar because you didn't overbook, you didn't overpromise and say, this I got, I can do this. You are going to be able to accomplish more of your goals. So here are some tips, just 3 simple tips to stop overcommitting. Before you say yes, okay, because I know if you reflect right now, you know who you are. Someone will ask you something and right away you just say yes without considering, without taking time to think. So remember, this is another area where it's really important to control that impulsivity, right? Stop, think, and then respond, okay? Gabriella says, do you have a similar seminar for teens? Actually, we have one next week for teens, actually for you, on how to motivate teens. But Gabriella, if you have a specific topic in mind you want covered for teenagers specifically, which is beyond just motivating, just type it in there and we'll consider it. We have weekly webinars, so the more topics, the better, that are given to us from our audience. So before saying yes, look at your calendar with due diligence. That means really look at your calendar, not just at a glance. So look at the items on your calendar, consider what's already on your calendar, because remember, we're keeping a calendar now. So consider that it's what's already booked. Then think about how much time each commitment is going to take. Add 30 minutes, because remember, you're probably underestimating. So go ahead and add 30 minutes, give yourself a buffer, and then decide if you can go ahead and commit. Stop getting caught up in pleasing people. If you are constantly trying to please everyone, you're always going to say yes, and you're going to have too many goals for too many people, and you're going to underdeliver every time. And then those people are going to start thinking that you are not reliable. And it's not that you're not reliable, it's just that you're overbooking yourself. You really have good intentions, but you're just overcommitting. So stop trying to please, because you know what? They're going to be pleased if you only say yes when you can actually do it. Saying yes is not going to make them as happy as you actually completing the project or the event. Okay, so remember that. Just because you say yes, it may please them in the moment, but they're not going to be pleased when you can't follow through. So being a pleaser is really one that thinks, commits, and follows through. And I want you all to practice this. So after the webinar, you're going to go over to your mirror and you're going to look at yourself and you're going to say, let me check my calendar and get back to you. That's fine. That's a good response. Give yourself some time. Don't be impulsive. All right. Take a self-assessment. Consider your strengths and set yourself up for success. So you want to consider your strengths, but also consider your challenges. And the benefits to this is that when you know your different strengths and you understand your personal challenges, you can then develop your best strategies to succeed. You know, a lot of times women don't really sit back and think about themselves personally. You might have this idea of what you think your strengths and weaknesses are based on what other people have said to you. And it's important to keep those things in mind, but really sit back and you personally think about what your strengths are and understand your challenges. Understand that if you have an attention difficulty, if you have ADHD, there are certain cognitive skills that right now are weak for you. Now, when you identify what's weak for you, that's when you can start working on those areas, if you can identify it. And you can not only identify it, but say, it's okay. This is an area I can improve. This is what I can work on. This is the step I'm going to take today. But if you never take that time to really sit back and reflect, then you're not going to know what to work on. You're not going to know what your priorities are. And remember, if you have ADHD, there are so many characteristics that you have that are invaluable, that can really make you a superhero, that are great. If you can start learning how to manage those traits, can be a real asset in your life. Find your passion and channel your energy towards success on the playing field, at home, or in your career. So part of being ADHD is that you are very passionate, right? If you find something of high interest, you have a lot of passion over that. Not only can you have extreme passion over something, you have a great amount of energy. So line those two traits up. Find what your passion is and then put your energy towards that passion. And as I was saying earlier, ADHD can be your superpower. If you learn how to manage certain attributes like hyperfocus, high energy, creative thinking, once you can harness those, you can really take control of your life and improve future outcomes at school, if you are still in school, going back to school, at the home, or in the workplace. But you need to learn how to manage those characteristics, because even if you take just hyper focus, I know many of you can relate to this. You have, or you've been told that you're ADHD, attention deficit, which is really a misnomer, because if you're very interested in something, if you're very passionate about something, you can hyper focus on that, right? Where you can hyper focus and get incredible things completed. But you have to be able to manage that hyper focus, because if you can only hyper focus and you cannot transition, or you get lost in that hyper focus, that can also lead to missing appointments or forgetting that you have to pick up your children at 5 o'clock. So it's important we learn how to manage these attributes and really make them a strong characteristic in your life. So conduct a passion interview with yourself. Just go through a few certain questions to find out what your passion is. That's usually the one question we get when we say, you have to find your passion. Well, how do I do that? I don't know how I do that. So just ask yourself some questions. What brings you happiness? And just brainstorm, just write down a variety of things. What makes you smile or laugh? And it may seem silly at the time to be writing some of these things down, but just write down everything that comes to mind. Or if you don't like writing or typing these things out, just say them into your recorder. And you have a text recorder on your phone, just say them out loud. What's meaningful to you? What are your skills and talents? Is there a common theme between all of these things? Brainstorm the different possibilities. Once you have all these different possibilities down of what passion you want to pursue, then do a reality check. Can these things actually be done? Are these things that I can actually pursue at this time in my life? So do a reality check. And then once you narrow it down, write down some steps that you can take to actually start pursuing that. So here are the strategies. Those are all the strategies, and I know there are more, but we talked about some very important strategies that you can start incorporating. So I'm going to review them again, and I want you to reflect on these, but don't feel like you have to do all of these today. You have to make all of these changes today, right? Because you're not going to be setting yourself up for success. Choose one thing. Choose one thing you want to start incorporating and do that well, and then move on to another thing. Okay, so just gradually start incorporating some of these strategies. Maybe some of these strategies you're already doing. Are there any ways that you can improve them currently? If not, great, start incorporating another strategy. So what we talked about, start your morning slow, plan that time, have that time set aside for just you. Don't get out of bed and check your email. Don't roll out of bed and check your text messages. You're allowing other people, other things at that moment to direct your day. Set that time aside for yourself. Post your calendar and your to-do list. I know that this is a struggle, but go ahead and figure out a calendar. Just think about your morning routine. Write it down. Just work on the morning for you and your child. Then start incorporating morning and afternoon when you're ready. Start incorporating that color coding on your calendar so that you don't overbook. Don't go it alone. Think about your support system. Do you have the beginnings of a support system, but you need to nurture it a little bit? Start thinking about that. How can you start developing a stronger support network? Get control over meal planning. So think about what you can do better with your meals. Is it just that you need to plan your meals a little bit more in advance? Can you start using a phone app like Out of Milk? Can you use a service like the delivery or Instacart to at least shop for you and have everything ready when you get there? Remember, those are all big time savers and money savers in the end. Stop overpromising. So remember, you're going to promise me this, that you're going to say to others who ask you things, let me check my calendar and get back to you, right? You're going to practice that after the webinar. And then take a self-assessment. Think about your strengths. Think about what's challenging for you and start working on those areas. So it's time to discover your superpower, and we can help. Play attention. I know many of you here are current Play Attention clients. I've been looking at the list and I can see that many of you here already use Play Attention in your home or in your professional setting. So I appreciate the fact that you're here. If you are not familiar with Play Attention is a complete attention training system where we integrate feedback-based technology. So this is our body wave armband, which has 3 sensors, and those sensors monitor your brain activity that tells us how attentive you are. And then that information is given over to the computer where you're able to control all of the cognitive exercises just with your mind, or more specifically, your attention alone. And you receive constant and immediate feedback as to whether or not you truly are focused and paying attention. So play attention develops those cognitive skills that right now may be weak for you, but are necessary for strong executive function. And again, we have both home systems and professional systems available. If you are doing either of those, you have a lifetime membership, and you are assigned a personal executive function coach to assist you every step of the way. Also keep in mind, if you are at home, I think it was Natalie who mentioned earlier that she has ADHD, but also her child has ADHD. Remember, when you start Play Attention, we will customize every family member's plan. So you and your executive function coach will customize that profile for each family member, because Natalie's profile will be very different from her son's profile. They're going to move through the program differently. So we will customize that plan and help you every step of the way. And your support is unlimited. So if you have more questions about Play Attention, we do have a couple of things that we can assist you with to make certain that you have the information you need. One that I wanted to reach out to you is the assessment. I believe it was also Natalie that talked about being tested for ADHD. This is not a diagnostic test. We have an assessment package, and the assessment package includes 2 different types of assessment. One is called Focus. Focus is a norm reference test of attentional control. It is computer-based. It takes about 20 minutes for you to complete. And when you complete it, we receive the results here that tells us how you performed compared to the performance of your peers. We also do a brief, which is called the brief. It is a survey, and it is a survey of your executive function. So as a way of saying thank you to all of our webinar attendees, and thank you to all of our mothers, and happy Mother's Day, we are going to offer all of our webinar attendees today a free assessment package and consultation. So remember, it's not a diagnostic test, but it is a consultation and an assessment so you can see how you're performing. Maybe this will give you a little bit of a better idea or picture of how you perform compared to the performance of your peers, and you can really assess if your self-perception is on target. And we can talk to you about that, and also talk to you about how we can customize a program for you. If you would like to have a free ADHD assessment and consultation, just type assessment, or you can type the number 1, because this is number 1 on my list here. And one of our advisors will reach out to you and make certain that we get you registered. Now, when we register you for the assessment package, we will need your name and date of birth, because they are norm referenced results. So if you would like to have that free assessment and consultation, just type a 1 in the chat box. Make certain you're not raising your hands. Some of you are raising your hands because I won't have a record of that afterwards. So make certain that you type down number 1 if that's what you would like. Also, next week's webinar that I mentioned earlier is how to motivate your ADHD teen. That will be on Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern time. If you would like to be registered for that event, type in 2. Type in number 2, and we'll make certain that we register you for next week's webinar. And remember, if you're not available for the webinar at 1 o'clock Eastern time, you'll receive the recording if you are registered. So go ahead, 1 for the ADHD assessment, and 2 for next week's webinar on how to motivate your teenager. And that will be with my colleague Amber, who is at home with 2 teenagers right now during this time. So she'll have lots of great strategies for you. Also, just released this week And we don't have all of the information yet, but we are going to be releasing all the information to everyone, I think by the end of this week and definitely early next week. We are planning to have Play Attention's first free virtual summer camp. I know many of you, your summer events have been canceled or postponed. So we're going to have a free virtual summer camp with our 5-week Brain Boost Challenge. So every week for 5 weeks, we're going to start June 15th. You're going to receive 5 different activities for the week that will challenge you, excite you, ask you to really be creative, and hopefully inspire you to have a better brain. So if you want more information sent to you about our virtual summer camp, type in 3. And as soon as that information is released, we'll make certain that we get that information out to you. And a camp counselor will certainly contact you. And that free virtual summer camp is going to be for all ages. So for both children and adults, we'll have different activities that you can explore. And so it should be fun. You can do it individually, with a friend, or maybe just as a family. And finally, if you did want more information on Play Attention, next week's webinar, of course, is about ADHD teens. But if you would like to have more information about Play Attention specifically and watch one of our informational webinar recordings, we will certainly send that out to you. So you can type in number 4 if you would like to just watch a webinar that goes more in depth into Play Attention, its educational foundation, and how we integrate NASA-inspired technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping to improve executive function and self-regulation. So if you'd like to watch the recording of that webinar, we will have a live one in a couple of weeks, but if you want to watch the recording right away, we'll send out our recent recording on our informational webinar. That was a lot of information. I do appreciate you staying with me today. It was a pleasure speaking with all of you. Shortly after the webinar, we will make certain to get the email out to you that has the slides. Many of you often want the slides, so we'll have the slides. We'll have the replay link available to you. If you want any of these items, make certain you've typed 1, 2, 3, or 4, or all of the above in the chat box, and we'll follow up personally to make certain that you get all of that information. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. It's been a pleasure being with you, and I hope you have a relaxing and happy Mother's Day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.